but it signals the change of the seasons, signals the start of a new day, of a new term, of a new opportunity to do your work for the people of the city of Holland. Lord, give us ears to hear, give us voices to speak, allow us to follow our guiding principles. Let us do your work for the people and serve. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next items are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine, and they have been previously reviewed by council members as part of our weekly packet, and they will be enacted with one motion unless a member of the public or a member of city council asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda, and it will be placed then in its normal sequence in the regular agenda. But before we ask that, Brenda, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
Yes. 4B, approval of minutes, November 3, 2021 regular meeting, November 10, 2021 study special meeting. Oaths of office. 4D, written petitions and communications, a tax abatement PA 198 for Sherlock Aluminum Edging, Inc., 310 East 64th Street. 4E, written petitions and communications, a speculative IFT, Electric Steel LLC, 72 West 64th Street. 4F, Holland Board of Public Works, the Greenlee and Waverly Substation Relay Upgrades. 4G, the City Attorney, Holland City Code Section 22-10, Ordinance Amendment, the final adoption to be December 1, 2021. 4H, the City Attorney, National Prescription Opiate Litigation Class Action Settlement. 4I, the City Clerk, claims filed against the city. 4J, Parks and Recreation, approval to repairs to site lighting at the Venralty Sledding Hill. 4K, finance purchasing, declare items as surplus. 4L, finance purchasing, public safety services, authorization to purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus. 4M, finance, approve proposal for banking services for the City of Holland. 4N, public safety services, award bid use of force training simulator. 4O, management and administrative services, approval of vacant land listing agreement between the city and broker Bernie Merkel for property at 1601 Lincoln Avenue, parcel K. 4P, management and administrative services, Board of Review, reappointment of city officers. And the consent also includes the following from 7E, adoption of list of administrative officials to the Planning Commission, and 7F, administrative official to the Planning Commission.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Is there any member of the audience that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none, is there any member of council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? None there either. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Great. We have a motion by Arenshorst. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion? Seeing none. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Yes.
Vreeman,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Coronado,
Yes.
Arenshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
and Mayor Box.
Yes. Motion passes. Next item is public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Michigan, every one of our public meetings allows for the opportunity for public comment. During our regular meetings, we allow 5 minutes. You'll see 3 lights on the dais in front of me. We'll be keeping track of the time. If the green light is on, you're doing well. If the yellow light is on, that means you have 1 minute left. And when the red light comes on, your time has expired. And we are strict with that, so that we would appreciate that you would cooperate with that. Also, remember that this is one-way communication. This is your opportunity to speak to council on any subject that you would like to where there is not otherwise a public hearing. We don't engage in discussion at this time. We don't answer questions at this time, but it gives you the opportunity to let us know what you think is important. So with that said, is there anyone who would like to address council at this time? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item, special order of the day, public hearings, organizational meeting of the Holland City Council. This is our opportunity to do some housekeeping and organization here at City Council. The first item that we're going to be doing is to select the mayor pro tem, and I know that we only do this once every 2 years, so I want to kind of run through the process for folks. I had to be reminded of it myself. I will call for nominations. For each nomination, there needs to be a second. And once we have exhausted all of the nominations for Mayor Pro Tem, we will then have Brenda. Brenda do, I was looking right at it too. I'm so used to saying Kathy. We'll have Brenda do a roll call. And rather than voting yes or no, if there is more than one person who has been nominated, you will say the name of the person that you would like to have be the Mayor Pro Tem. So with that, I will open up nominations from the floor. Yes, Mr. Peters.
I would like to nominate our elder councilman, Mr. David Hoekstra.
All right. Is there a second? All right. Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate 5th Ward Councilmember Scott Corbin for CGO and Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I will close the nominations at this point. And we do have a nomination for Mayor Pro Tem and CGO in one nomination. Vince, I'm going to throw this to you as a question as to whether we can do that in one vote or whether we need to do that in 2 separate votes.
Well, we always err on the side of 2 separate votes, but I think as long as council knows what they are voting on, it can be 1 vote, as long as it's clear in the record.
Okay.
Yep.
So for clarity's sake, and Mr. Byrd, I'm going to see if I can say this for you, but make sure you correct me. Your nomination is for Scott Corbin to be both the Mayor Pro Tem and the Chief Governance Officer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that was what you supported?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's probably about as clear as it possibly can be. So we do just have 1 nomination on the floor. So Brenda, I'm gonna change up what I said before, since it's just the one. When you call each name, we have the ability to say yes or no.
Okay, Vreeman,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Coronado,
Yes.
Aaronshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Yes. Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
and Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Corbin. We now have, the next is resolution on the meetings of council. And we do have a calendar of the meetings. What is the pleasure of council in regard to our meeting schedule?
Move we adopt the proposed schedule.
All right. Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support?
Support by Vreeman. Any discussion? Seeing none. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Peters,
Yes.
Coronado,
Yes.
Aaronshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Vreeman,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next is item 7C, rules of council. Beginning of each term, each 2-year term, we reaffirm our adoption of the rules of council. I know that for our 2 new members, this is brand new and you haven't had the opportunity probably to review them completely or even have input on them. And one of the things that that I would suggest for council moving forward is that perhaps at some point in the early part of this session, we discuss proposed changes. That can be done at any time during, but we do need to reapprove our rules of council at the beginning. So having said that, what is the pleasure of council in regard to our current rules of council?
Move we adopt the current rules of council.
Moved by Byrd, is there support?
Support.
Support by Aaronsource. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Byrd.
Yes, so just to be clear on what you said, you're saying we can adopt this today, and as we go, we still can make changes to that? to
Yep.
it?
It is my understanding, and I'm gonna again look to Mr. Duckworth just for confirmation on that question, but it's my understanding we can make changes to our rules of council at any point during the term that we choose to.
That is correct.
All right. All right, any other discussion? Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Coronado,
Yes.
Aaronshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Yes. Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
and Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And then item, I believe 7D is still on the agenda, or did 7D get put on the consent agenda as well? 7D is still on the regular agenda. So I'm actually gonna look for some help from Mr. Van Beek on this one, because it's been 2 years, and I neglected to ask about it this afternoon.
No problem. And this is one of those where I haven't done it a lot of times here either. But just to let you know, the setup and why the organizational meeting, there's several things that we need to do, either state law related or charter related. So there's kind of a laundry list of things that we do. One of those things is that in our charter, there is an administrative official that's an appointee to the plan. And I think it's required / it's our tradition that we list out all of the people that are eligible for that appointment. So that's kind of step one, which would be outlined in D. And I might as well, well, that's the organization of the Planning Commission that we're doing, sorry. And then E is the list of the officials that are eligible, which is on consent. And then F, which is on consent, is the appointment of Jennifer Orm to that position. But yes, the organization of the Planning Commission is just that you have in place a Planning Commission.
We want to continue the Planning Commission under the
Just
same
a good
format
idea.
and structure that it currently is.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there are 3 things in rapid order, right? And so this first one is that you're continuing it, but then just the 2 others that you already adopted on the consent agenda is the administrative official and then who that is and Jennifer Orm.
All right. So,
Clear as
so,
punch.
so completely clear. I have a feeling I know how this is going to end up, but just for clarification's sake, in case it doesn't, if we vote, if we don't vote to adopt 7D, 7E and 7F really don't have any effect. So if we as council said you know what, we don't need a planning commission, which I don't think we're going to say, but
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So then the question is, I would entertain a motion from council in regard to continuing the organization of the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd. Any discussion? Seeing none, Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Aaronshorst,
Yes.
Corbin. Yes. Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Vreeman,
Yes.
Peters, Coronado,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. And then 7G, Finance Tax Abatement, PA 198 Tax Abatement for JR Automation Technologies LLC at 701 Waverly Road. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. In a moment.
Just a minute, Mr. Moment. We did D, but E and F were on the consent agenda. All right, great. Sorry about that.
No problem. It was a little weird. In the organizational meeting we have there, we don't use those asterisks very often, but. So this location at 701 Waverly Road, for longtime Holland people, you'll understand that that is a major building in the history of the city. For lots of people known as the Tech Center, because it was the Tech Center with Prince, and then through some of the changes there with the ownership of that company. Some years ago, with kind of transition, that location became available and vacant. And over the last couple of years, we've been very pleased that we have a new tenant in that location, JR Automation, who comes before you this evening with a plan where they're going to renovate the tech center, have some exciting plans to put in there, a significant investment. It's a remodel is broken down in your application of 147,000 square feet, so it's not an insignificant space. It's a total investment of over $1 million. And once at this completed, they're looking at putting in 28 new employees into the space. The 7 council members that have been, and the 2 newer council members know that there's a series of attachments to this. One that I always take a look at is the tax abatement estimated tax calculations. And that's an important document where I'll just take a moment to explain what we do there. And it supports the saying that I've started using, which is sometimes we get asked, why support a tax abatement? And a tax abatement is a state tool that's made available not only to us as a local municipality, but then it's available to all municipalities in the state. And what it allows is it allows someone with a new investment such as this in real property, which is either a new building or a remodel, significant remodel like they're talking about to that space, instead of paying 100% of the taxes, not just to the city, but to all of the taxing entities for which the city does assessments and tax collections, instead they pay roughly 50% of the taxes on that new investment, and then they get an abatement of 50% of those taxes for a period of 12 years that kind of ebbs out at the end of that. That tax calculation sheet I like to point to because in some ways, because this is a competitive environment, and we know that pretty much every municipality looks favorably on these tax abatements, there's an element of JR coming in this instance and taking over a location that was vacant, and would we want 50% of that investment for a period of 12 years and then for much longer with a new partner in that location that's bringing investment and jobs to the community? Or potentially by not considering that abatement, you can get 100% of, and I say this a little tongue-in-cheek, but I think it proves the point, 100% of nothing because they would not choose to invest in the city and they'd go somewhere else. So just a little background, take a little bit more than normal with one of these first abatements that comes before us. Another piece of history, it used to be that there were probably 2, 3, 4 of these types of abatements in front of the city every meeting, back in a time where not only real property but also personal property was abated. And that's like, I always describe it as if you paid taxes on your refrigerator and your couch and your TV in your home, because that's what businesses used to do. They also used to pay taxes on that. And with a tax change in the state several years ago, they don't pay taxes on that personal property at the same rate, and instead there's a replacement mechanism that not only the city of Holland gets, but all the other municipalities get for the change in that taxing mechanism. So we don't have as many of these as we used to, but as you can tell, we started the process on the consent agenda tonight of other companies, which is always a good sign that we have people that are interested in continuing to invest in Holland. So with that longer introduction, I apologize. We have 4 people that are joining us tonight. One, Lynn McCammon is here from the finance department, so if there's any questions from a finance perspective, she's available. Greg King is also our local representative from Lakeshore Advantage, and we have a partnership with Lakeshore Advantage where they handle a series of services on behalf of not only the city but the other surrounding municipalities. And one thing in particular that Greg does is he helps companies through processes such as this 198 abatement. And then we have two representatives from JR Automation, Gerald Walford, who is the Vice President and GM of Operations, and Sean Ryan, who is the Controller. I'm not sure if Lynn and Greg will say anything necessarily, but we would like to invite Gerald and Sean to correct anything that I might have said wrong and just tell us all a little bit more about their investment. So, thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen, and we would ask you to again state your name and address for the record.
Gerald Holford, Vice President of Operations at JR. I'm currently a resident of Hamilton, Michigan. So,
Hi, Sean Ryan, Controller for JR, current resident, north side of Holland.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. So basically, we just kind of want to start out by saying we're excited to be here representing JR. You know, we've had a long history with the Holland community, and it's kind of a full circle thing for us. The very first customer of JR Automation in 1980 was the Prince Corporation, and now it's kind of we're coming home to the tech center. So it's good to be there. A lot of our folks used to work in that facility when it was Prince. So we're excited to be looking at that facility. A little bit of history of JR, kind of what we do and who we are. So since 1980, we've been in the industry of building specialized equipment and automation. So we're basically building the equipment that manufactures things. So we're in the medical industry, we're in the auto industry, we're in the food industry. I think if you can think of anything that's manufactured, we've built equipment for it. So this space allows us an expansion in what we're currently doing, as well as a bigger floor space for bigger systems, to bring more jobs to the area, bring more customers to this area. And it's a nice place to bring our customers. They love the Holland area. Most of our customers come back to visit for pleasure. So we enjoy bringing them here, and this facility is going to be one of our showcase facilities with the size and breadth of what it offers.
Wonderful. Thank you. And anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that on top of the 28 jobs, we plan to move about 85 people over from one of our other facilities that we're consolidating in, and all of the jobs are I would consider high-paying jobs, a lot of skilled trades positions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions from council members? No? Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Anything else, Mr. Van Beek? Otherwise, I'll open it up for the public hearing. All right. This is now. I'm going to open the public hearing. This is the opportunity for any member of the public who would like to address this particular issue. You may do so, and the 5-minute rule applies here as well. So, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in regard to this particular item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And what is the pleasure of council in regard to the tax abatement for JR Automation Technologies at 701 Waverly Road?
Move we adopt the tax abatement for JR Automation.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Coronado. Any discussion?
The information was very clear and complete in the packet, so it's not that we immediately understood what was going on, but we're pleased to have you speak to it. So
Great. Thank you. Any other discussion? Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Corbin? Yes. Hoekstra?
Yes.
Raymond?
yes.
Byrd?
Yes.
Vreeman?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Coronado?
Yes.
Aaronshorst?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. I'm going to jump to item number 9, written petitions and communications. It's my understanding that we don't have any this evening, but I do like to highlight the point that if any member of the public would like to make a comment to council and they're not able to make it here at a public meeting, they can email us at publiccomment@cityofholland.com. It's publiccomment@cityofholland.com. Those are accumulated in between the meetings. Council reviews them, and then as we have them at our regular meetings, then we accept them into the record. We don't read them out loud, but we do all read all of them. So then, next item is 12B1, text amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, for final adoption on December 1, 2021. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We have 2 staff members that are coming up, and I went 1 slide too far. I think the next slide says UDO Round 2. So Tricia and Steve are about to go through that with you, and I'm sure they'll do a great job giving you this information. So thank you to you both. And welcome, Steve. This is kind of semi-official, first in front of council. I'm sure no one's taking notes or grading or anything.
It's not on TV or anything.
Well, it is. But.
Yeah, it is on television. And just make sure, Steve, you're in front of the mic, and I know that there's a significant height difference between the two of you, so do the best that you can with the technology we have available.
We'll do our best. If you can't hear us, let us know. So Steve and I are going to tag team on this round of UDO updates. I worked on some, he worked on some, and this is not the last time you'll see us. We'll be back again, and hopefully the dynamic will shift a little bit, and Steve will have more stuff on the planning side, and we'll have less on the zoning side. So I'm gonna maybe start, so we have quite a few sections, actually, that we're gonna cover tonight. We're gonna, the red line was in your packet. That's where you can visually see all the changes, and then we made the clean copy version as well. None of these changes are substantive. They're accidental omissions, errors, typos, and the need for clarification within the document. As we continue to use the document and apply it to real life situations, questions that people are asking, scenarios that we're exploring, that's when we're finding errors and the need for clarification. So no substantive changes. So we'll start out with Article 2. Article 2 covers all of the zone districts and all of the uses. So if you are in a residential zone district, you can go to Article 2, you can look at the summary chart and see what types of things are allowed in each zone district. In most of the changes in 2 are just making sure things match. If you're allowed to do something in the low-density residential area, we want to make sure it was included in the summary use table, and vice versa. If it was listed in the summary use table, we want to make sure the standards are in each individual zone. To point in the right direction. So this is a red line version of the summary use table. All of the changes that you see here are just making sure everything matches. So if it was a permitted use in a residential zone, we made sure it says P. If it's permitted with some additional restrictions, it's a P star. Special land uses are S, and then special land uses with restrictions are S star. So literally, we compared page by page, chart by chart to make sure everything is matching. A few things did not. In this section, we clarified, if I live in a residential zone district, can I build a single family house? If it's a P, what does that mean? If I want to do a daycare and it's a P star, what does that mean, and where do I go to find the regulations? So all of this red line just cleans that up and provides additional clarification on where to find things in the document. This is another example of a clarification that we made. In this particular zone district, we want to be clear that you can build one detached single-family home or one duplex. So again, just clarifying the intent of the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission did review, we reviewed all these changes with them in 2 meetings, and they unanimously approved the changes that we're presenting to City Council tonight. In this section, we found some inconsistencies with childcare and daycare, but the regulations in the ordinance are specifically for childcare. So again, we want to make sure everything is uniform and the same. We're using the same language, the same words, so there's no confusion. We added a couple of section references that were missing, and we want to make sure that all the standards that are required in this section made it in there. So just a lot of cleanup. Article 4 talks about some of those permitted uses that have a couple of additional restrictions. So again, this first page is literally cleanup. We went into each zone district and made sure it was listed here if it was supposed to be. Stuff that was listed here and wasn't supposed to be, we're taking out. Making sure everything's matching. This one is, again, childcare. We found some incorrect language based on state law and what the state law allows for childcare in home. So again, this is just cleanup to be consistent with state law. In our home business section, one of the things that is important in identifying if it's a home occupation, type 1 home business, or a type 2 has to do with merchandise. So if folks are selling things out of their house, that elevates them to a higher level in additional criteria so that we can protect the impact on our residential neighborhoods. So just adding back in a line that was in the previous ordinance. 4.04, these are special land uses with additional standards. Again, just making sure each use in the zone district matches. So stuff that's listed in 4.04 is listed as an S star in the chart, and vice versa. Lots of details.
Section 5 was mine, so this is the section that talks about a memo of understanding when we're dealing with traffic studies. So if the Planning Commission needs a traffic study for a development, this is something the city engineer and the developer work with. So the MOU is just simply a document that is going to set the expectations, making sure the developer and the city engineer are, making sure they study the same parameters that they want to look at. This was something that they were already doing, something that we had before. It was simply omitted, so we're putting that language back in. The city engineer has seen this language and approved of it as well.
I think this one's me. So we realized in the UDO that there were a couple of building setbacks for principal buildings that changed. And I forgot to go back and change the sign ordinance, so we're doing it now. So, for example, if you have, we'll just say, a church building in a residential zone district, we don't want the sign setback to be greater than the building setback, because it would be silly to have a church setback 15 feet from the road, but the sign have to be 25 feet back. So we adjusted some of the setbacks in the sign ordinance based on the building setbacks that were approved in UDO. Oh, this one's mine too. We added back in the requirement for pitched roofs on accessory buildings, so that if someone comes into a residential neighborhood and they want to build a shed, they do need to have a pitched roof, so it matches the character of the rest of the buildings in the neighborhood. This one is, again, just some cleanup language. There are no changes to the regulations. We renumbered the sections to make it flow a little bit better, make it easier to understand, and make it easier for us to explain to citizens when they're filing an application.
So section 12 is mine, and this is a lot of formatting. This is, you've seen a lot of these tables in this document, so this is just a lot of clarifying. So this is just reorganizing a little bit of this table, putting stuff in the same order that it is in other sections of the document. Go ahead. Again, sort of some reorganizing of the table. There's some where there's multiple categories on the same row, so simply separating some of those so it looks a little bit nicer, a little bit easier to read. You see on the bottom there, we are adding some column and some rows for parking waiver. That is something that we had before in the ordinance that we're reintroducing. So even though that looks like a new section, that's really something that we're just adding back in. Again, sort of the same thing. You've got, I think it's signs and fences on the bottom there, that those will be separated and out have their own rows. Another row again for some facade changes. So again, sort of clarifying, not anything new. Go ahead. So this is that section that talks about the parking waiver, again, not new, putting it back in the ordinance. And just because of the way that that existing language was, there was already a section that talked about Planning Commission setback waiver, so we're simply changing that for waivers, and then underneath that will be the setback and parking waiver. But again, describe this as not a new item, these are just clarifying. Same thing with this, the language regarding the LDR was something that was not approved when UDO was originally adopted, and it just made its way in there, so simply something that needed to be deleted out of it, so that is what, that's what you see there. Can't remember what the one on the bottom is.
The one on the bottom is type 2 home businesses just didn't get added to this list.
And then some clarification with flag lots.
I can talk about this one a little bit. So basically, same standards we had before, just clarifying that if someone is creating a flag lot, if the width at the road meets the minimum requirement of the zone district, it's not a flag lot, it's a regular lot. Even if the lot does curve around behind the neighbors, it's just a regular lot. I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council members? Yeah, Mr. Corbin.
Just a clarification on the first couple slides there, we had that table where it marked out permitted with, permitted with restrictions for special land use and special land use restrictions. You notice at the bottom of a couple of the pages, we have the P star and the S star. Is it slash? Does that mean? Or is it slash through the P star? Just want to clarify. It is both, right?
So in this chart, we have P, P star, S, and S star. So here where you see the slashes, that star should be removed, and it should be S. So all of those letters tie back to different sections in Chapter 4.
Yeah, specifically the alternate solar energy, and then at the bottom is the wireless communication.
But you gotta lean into that mic, Scott.
You actually have it on. It's the wireless communication facilities, and then at the top, the alternate energy solar. I can't quite tell whether it's one or the other, or they're scratched out,
They're
especially the wireless
both.
communication one.
Those are P star and S star depending on the situation. So then if you go to 4.02, it lists all the additional restrictions for the P star. And you have your book, do you wanna go to 4.02?
It just seemed like on the wireless communication, S star was crossed out again, like it was a mistake or something. I just wanna make sure I understand.
Wireless, it has to do with towers over 40 feet tall or less than 40 feet tall. So if it's a wireless communication tower less than 40 feet tall, it's a P star. If it's more than 40 feet tall, it's an S star. So less than 40 feet is allowed in all zone districts as an accessory use. Over 40 feet has to go to the Planning Commission for special land use approval.
So both of those are, but so the cross, where it looks like it's crossed out, the S star is not really crossed out, it's actually included in this.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, thanks.
We still allow wireless facilities.
Yes, Mr. Van Beek.
And I don't want to interrupt conversation or questions, but maybe a couple things just from my perspective. One, just reiterating as we've had conversations that really appreciative of kind of another set of eyes on this. And this is, I don't think in any way, shape, or form a reflection on the work that was done to get this all, the amount of time that staff and consultant and planning commission put into this, and you guys the first time through. I think we've all been in those positions where sometimes you see the same sheet of paper for the 8th time and you just don't see it. So I think actually this process of a different set of eyes and then starting to use it, we're just ferreting some of this out and it makes it a better document. Second thing is maybe just looking for a direction from you, and I don't want to assume the action that you're taking tonight, but this comes back to you for final reading on the 1st. So just looking for your thoughts as to if, for the public or otherwise, do you want to do a similar presentation as we just went through, or maybe a abbreviated presentation that we went through, and then obviously making ourselves available for questions either from any of you or from the public.
You're asking if we want a second presentation on the same material on the 1st?
Yes.
I know
We
as
might
somebody who's
forget.
already had a presentation on this material at the Planning Commission, I know one was sufficient for me. I don't know if the rest of you are looking for a second. I'm willing to sit through a third if you guys want to.
I love this stuff, but yes, I think this is just enough.
All right, great.
Then not to presume the action that you're about to take, but we will be available, answer questions, do a more abbreviated presentation at the next meeting.
Is that, at the next meeting, is there a public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, so is there a value in, I mean, I know we've heard it a couple times, but is there some value in providing the public with a little, because if there are people here for that, it seems like that might be valuable.
And that's exactly
I mean,
why
that
I
was-
wanted to
yeah.
kind of get a sense of, and maybe be prepared to do a longer presentation if there's questions.
Well, I
or-
think what you just did was about 10 minutes less, maybe less, and I think it's, and you've consolidated it and pointed out the really important pieces, so I think it would be okay.
Okay, Scott?
Yeah, I guess I would support what you're saying there, Councilman Raymond, because this was a sensitive issue in the community for quite
Yes.
some time. So I just think if we feel like we're skipping a beat, maybe they'll feel like we're skipping a beat. And if we just review it one more time, this was 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I think it would probably be very helpful for us to do it one more time.
We'd be happy, and that's why, exactly why we brought it up. Just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with what the best process was.
Right.
Yep.
Yep, great.
Aren't we glad we have computers? So someone doesn't have to do everything.
Yeah. Any other comments from council? I just have a couple. I agree with Mr. Van Beek as well as somebody who was involved at least in the second half of this process at Planning Commission. You do look at the same piece of paper over and over, but I think that one of the real drivers for these changes has been, whether you want to use the word road test or sea trials, that you get it out there and you actually start using it and you start finding, oh, that doesn't match up the way that it did. So thank you for that. And then even though, Tricia, you said it twice at the beginning of the presentation, I noticed that it was on the intro of every single intro slide. You had it underlined, but it was neither bolded nor in italics, nor was it highlighted. So I'm going to ask you the question. There are no substantive changes here. These are all kind of administrative cleanup changes, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask that again next time, so. All right, and we need to vote on this, yes. So looking for a motion from council in regard to the text amendments on the Unified Development Ordinance with final adoption for December 1, 2021.
So moved.
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Arnshorst. Any discussion? Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Okay, Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Coronado,
Yes.
Aaronshorst,
Yes.
Corbin, Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next item, 12E 6.1, gifts. Brenda, would you please review the gifts for us?
Okay. The manager's office is pleased to report receipt of the following gifts. The Home Energy Fund, establishment of an HEF endowment fund, Ann Salyers, $1,000. Parks and Recreation, Sal Perez Scholarship Program. Recreation Office's daily cash receipts for September 27 to October 31, $150. Parks and Recreation, Collin Park Tree Program. Marjorie Irvin on behalf of Vaishali and Bill Irvin in memory of Suresh and Asha Padar, $200. The Downtown Group, Windmill Island Gardens, from Tom and Patricia Grosco, $500. Public Safety Services, Police Operations, Officer Weiss Retirement Gift from Holland Police Officers Association, $448.50. And Human Relations, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, American Legion, William G. Leanhouse, Post 6, $300, and Veterans of Foreign Wars, $400.
Great, thank you. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the gifts?
Move we approve said donations with appreciation.
Moved by Byrd, is there support?
Support?
Support by Vreeman, any discussion?
Yes, I just want to say a couple things. Today is, I believe, Ann Salyer's last day at the Holland Board of Public Works. So this was a very touching and wonderful kind of contribution to the Holland Energy Fund. And I also want, and if you want to say anything else about that, I also want to say something about the tree program in the Parks and Recreation. These were memory of Suresh and Asha Patnar, were our neighbors when we first moved here, down the street from you. And so it was kind of fun. It was interesting to read this, and Vasheli used to babysit for my children. So it's nice to, everything comes around after. It's still a small town in that way, so.
Great, thank you. Quincy?
I'd like to echo just a little bit of what Nikki said regarding Ann. And she's one of those giants in the community that people don't know exist. So she's done a great job. Ann, thank you so much for all the work you've done in our community. And also, today is a first for me on council to not have Mike Trethui here for gifts. It's been Mike approves, and then I second that ever since I've been on council for the last 6 years. Every so often, a new person comes in and takes my thunder from that, but we won't say any names, Nikki. And so it's been an honor for me to do that, and now I am planning on stepping in Mike's shoes and doing that, but anyone else can do it as well. But it's different now. Mike's not here to do that.
Great, thanks, Quincy. Anyone else? Did we have one more? Tim? No? No? All right. All right. Yeah, and I want to echo in regard to Ann as well. Ann is one of the first city employees that I had the ability to interact with on a regular basis, and you're right, she's one of the giants in this community that a lot of people don't know. She worked in the background and did a lot of really big things for the community, and it is completely fitting and completely Ann to establish a Holland Energy Fund endowment fund, and for her to put the seed gift in for that. So again, thank you, Ann. Thank you for the great work that you've done for the community. Any other comments? Otherwise, we've got a motion. We've got a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 13, communications from the city manager. Mr. Van
Yes, thank you. Two things tonight, and thank you, Nikki, for calling out my neighbors. That was so neat when I saw that. I had just learned about her passing recently, and things remain in the community, and one of the things that remains next door with my new neighbors is some absolutely gorgeous rose bushes that were carefully cared for every single day, and great neighbors, and just so cool to see that memory gift. The other thing that I just want to make you all aware of, and by extension the public, and also we're putting this out there broadly, is that we have made final arrangements to have a community open house, thanking and recognizing our retiring council members. I always like calling Mike Myron, and Raul. My favorite uncle was Myron also. So December 9th, 4:30 to 6:30 in the grand lobby, the community atrium of Civic Center Place. So we will be putting this out in all of the venues and communication pieces that we have. But also I will put out a PDF in my communication to you this weekend so that if you want to distribute that also, please encourage you to do that. And there's great pictures recognizing your colleagues and our friends. And that's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van Beek. And I'm gonna immediately piggyback on that and say welcome to our 2 new council members. First Ward, Tim Vreeman, welcome, filling big shoes, but I'm sure that you'll do a great job with that. And then Third Ward, Belinda Coronado, welcome to both of you. You've already been busy at the study session last week. I know that you guys have been here taking care of a lot of administrative things and getting the technology and the HR stuff done. So welcome to your first regular meeting. And then I do have an appointment and resignation in regard to city boards and commissions. And I just need to get to that spot on my agenda. Here we go. I am recommending that the City Council accept the appointment of Lisa Walcott to the Public Art Advisory Committee with a term ending June 30, 2023, and accept the resignation of Catherine Sullivan from the Public Art Advisory Committee effective September 30 of 2021. So that is my recommendation to council, and I would appreciate a motion in that regard. Moved by Corbin. Is there support? Support by Byrd. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then I also have a mayoral proclamation this evening in regard to Homeless Awareness Month, and I want to thank Council Member Lynn Raymond for bringing this to my attention and actually drafting most of this proclamation. So thank you for that. And I want to put that out there for other council members as well. If you've got an idea for a proclamation, please let me know. And so the proclamation this evening in regard to Homeless Awareness Month. Whereas the purpose of this proclamation is to educate the public about homelessness in our community, to highlight the shortage of affordable and available housing in Holland, Michigan, and across the region, and to encourage support for homeless assistance service providers. And whereas, according to the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness, last year, more than 30,800 citizens throughout Michigan experienced homelessness. More than 945 Ottawa County residents reported homelessness at some point during 2020, most of them living in the Holland area. And whereas in 2020, during a global pandemic, nearly 100 households with at least 184 children were homeless in Ottawa County, as well as 35 veterans and 144 people over the age of 55. And whereas the racial disparities found within those experiencing homelessness is staggering. African Americans represented 18% of the homeless population, while only making up 2% of the total population in Ottawa County. The Latinx population is 10% of the total population, but represented 14% of the homeless population in 2020. And whereas too many households are just one emergency away from homelessness. The most recent Michigan ALICE report indicates 40% of Holland City households struggle to make ends meet. And whereas the member agencies of the United Way's Lakeshore Housing Alliance, including Good Samaritan Ministries, Community Action House, Resilience Advocates for Ending Violence, the Salvation Army, and the Holland Rescue Mission and Community Mental Health of Ottawa County are some of the many dedicated organizations whose efforts continue to make a difference in the lives of people experiencing homelessness in our community. And whereas during this month, we voice our concern for our unhoused neighbors, we commit to increasing housing opportunities and express our gratitude for the tireless work of our frontline staff serving those experiencing homelessness during a global pandemic in recognition of the 2021 theme, Harnessing the Power of Your Community. Now therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council, proclaim the month of November 2021 as Homeless Awareness Month in the City of Holland, Michigan, and encourage the City of Holland community to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland this 17th day of November 2021, Nathan Box, Mayor of Holland. So thank you, Lynn, for bringing that to our attention and doing such a great job. And I want to make sure that you get the original of this as well. That is all I have this evening. Do we have any appointments, motions, and communications from council members? Mr. Byrd.
The proclamation was fitting. Also to know that it came from Lynn. Some of you may know my story. I live in a Habitat house. At one time I was homeless, and one of the people in this community that helped me during that time was none other than Lynn Raymond. She doesn't just talk the talk, but she also walks the walk. I can say that she is one of the reasons that I'm sitting in this seat right here. So, Lynn, thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for what you have continued to do for homeless individuals in this community and even abroad. So thank you very, very much. Also want to welcome the two new individuals, Tim and Belinda. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoy your 4 years. Hope it's a fun ride. Sometimes it's challenging. Hopefully we have no more 2 a.m. meetings while you're on board. Those were not fun. That was a long night. And then also want to remind the community of the Parade of Lights on November the 30th at 6:30 p.m.
Great.
All right, and that's it.
Great. Thank you, Quincy. Anyone else? Yeah, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in the form of a request for some future attention. One of the things that we as council use to guide our paths through the things that we deliberate in our interactions is our governance framework, which we adopted a number of years ago, and which, according to the document, we are required to, or suggested strongly to monitor it as part of our council advance. I hate to use the we've got new people on council thing, because that gets old really fast, but we have some new people on council. And I would like to suggest that would be a good thing for us prior to our advance, I believe that's in January, that we have a refresher on our governance framework. I would suggest that we contact Mr. Miedema, who walked us through this. He's a third party, eyes on this, knows us well. If we could get him to come in for a study session just to sort of give us an overview for the sake of the new folks, as well as certainly it doesn't hurt to brush up for those of us veterans as well. So I'd just like to make that a suggestion or a request.
Yeah. And I think that we can do that, and I'll talk with our new chief governance officer to help coordinate that, and with Mr. Miedema, and I know that we've had some ongoing communication with him with Mr. Trethui as well, so I'm sure that we can make that work.
Yeah, we had conversations about doing that, and then what we'll look at, and I'll just so everyone knows, we're kind of zeroing in on probably because we lose some meetings in November and December, but I think, and a lot of things can change in the course of a month, right? But if he's available, what we'd probably do is we try to target the meeting in December, which I think the meeting would be December 8 maybe as a study session night. If, for example, he's not available that night, then we might go into January. Then it might get interesting because then we're almost right up against the advance anyway. But Dave, I agree. We'll try to do, and then that splits up what Dave does with us anyway at the advance. So there's kind of like a larger orientation and then kind of the evaluation piece, which I think would be good.
I hate to suggest anything that would elongate our advance, but,
I think everyone would vote with you on that, Dave. So.
But if all else fails, we could incorporate that as part of that.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
We'll see what we can do.
Great. Anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to say, guest, council, and mayor, and manager, it is an honor and a privilege. Thank you for your hospitality. And I am excited to be a part of city council and to do my best here as city council. But in light of the proclamation, and I don't know, I mean this with all due respect, Mayor, that I wonder if maybe in light of the proclamation and people that are struggling with homelessness, if perhaps we might consider reusing and we get to live here, because there are people that are living in the woods or struggling with permanent housing. And I say this with all due respect, just to be sensitive to those people that are struggling with homelessness. So I don't know if this is the right way to go about it, but I just wanted to ask, because I know that's one of your sayings, and I appreciate it, because Holland has been good to me 31 years, and I love Holland, and it's great, and it's a great community. But I guess with that being said, I just wanted to know if that's something we can reconsider, or maybe another.
Yeah, there's never been anything official with council with that. That's been something that I've adopted, but I will take that into consideration, because that's something that I say. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No, and I mean that with all due respect. And then second of all, the Parade of Lights. If you don't know, I work with veterans. I work at Veterans Upward Bound, and I'm in talks with Gentex. I know they're one of the sponsors, and they have a group of veterans. And we're talking, Andrew and I, about maybe perhaps having a float with veterans in light of it was Veterans Day on the 11th and the Marines' birthday. So if that is possible, that was something I will keep you abreast. And again, I'm new to this, but that kind of correlates with parallels with my job outside of city council. But I am very much a part of the community, and just wanted to throw that out there to you as well.
Great.
So thank you for your consideration and your
Wonderful.
time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, there's just, we don't have any first reading of ordinances, so there's just one more motion that I would entertain at this time.
Move we adjourn.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Peters. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.